Hi everybody and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Today I am going to be doing another one of my discussional, educational videos, and I'm really excited to talk about this one because today I am going to talk to you about reviews. More specifically, I'm going to talk to you about some tips, some recommendations that I have to ensure that you have an amazing review on your hands each and every time you hit that record button. Now, before we begin, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. It costs nothing and it really does help me. I have a goal to reach 500 subscribers by the time we get to my birthday on May 12th. So if you can help me out, I would really appreciate it a lot. And while you're down there, hit that notification bell, ding, so that you can be notified each and every time I upload a video so that you don't miss anything. But let's get right on into it. This is my video for how to help you create the most amazing review. Before I start telling you guys about an idealistic structure when it comes to a review, I want to talk about the four different types of reviews that you might potentially come across when it comes to BookTube. The monthly wrap review. Now, the reason that I want to start here is because the monthly wrap reviews when it comes to books are considered to be very different to a standard video review. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean those reviews where you see the title of a book and the word review, and you know that that entire video is going to be based around that review, versus a monthly wrap where you're going to be talking about a multitude of books depending on how many you read. Now, to cut a long story very short, the long and short of it really comes back down to how long you want your video to be. Research has shown that the viewer attention span is lower than, say, a long video. So generally speaking, the idealistic amount of running time for a video for a standard viewer on YouTube, let alone BookTube, is somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes, 25 if you're really pushing it. Because of that, the monthly wrap review is going to be a lot shorter. It basically comes back down to mathematics. It's a simple mathematical equation. Let's say you read 10 books in a month, and so you're going to do a mini review on each of them in order to wrap up that month. If you spend 2 minutes reviewing each of those 10 books that you have read that month, already you have a 20-minute video, and we're not counting the introduction or the outro. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. You want to keep them short and concise. So the best thing that I can recommend when it comes to a monthly wrap review is to keep it short. Take the title, the author's name, and if possible, the age rating and the genre, and then your star rating. Now, there is a reason why I would recommend introducing all of those aspects into your introduction of your mini review, or really in any review, but we'll get to that when we get to the structural point. From there, you would then state a premise, a really quick premise. Try and keep it spoiler-free because we don't want to spoil for everyone else, but a really quick premise so that whoever's watching gets a very rough idea about what the book is about, and then a very quick 1 minute or so moment of you giving your opinion of that book. And I would recommend rounding off, again reminding everyone what the star rating was, but that is up to you. Remembering that we want to keep videos short. Not everyone does, but if you do, and because research shows that viewers do prefer shorter videos, then that is what I would recommend. But if you want to do longer videos, or if this just doesn't work for you, that is fine. But this is just my recommendation based on feedback that I have received and things that I have seen. Spoiler-free reviews. So these are the types of videos that you see where a booktuber is going to talk about a single book. Sometimes for me, I might talk about more than one, but most of the time on BookTube, if someone's going to do a review on a book, they're going to talk about a single book. In a spoiler-free review, the booktuber will talk about the book in a spoiler-free way. The biggest tip that I can give you is to not spoil the book. So the next tip that I would give you is to let your viewers know that it is going to be a spoiler-free review. Now, you may not need to do this. Maybe your viewers are expecting that your reviews are going to be spoiler-free, but I still recommend it, regardless of whether it is spoiler-free or not, to let your viewers know and to give them that heads up. You can do this by either including it in the title, which I do. So for example, if I was reviewing The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, then my title would be The Final Empire, open bracket, spoiler-free review, close bracket. Right away in the title, we know what it is we're going to expect. Now, because a spoiler-free review is fully focused on the review of that one book, you can afford to take a lot more time. So use as much time as you want, just make sure that you're not spoiling anything. If there is anything that you didn't want to know prior to reading that book, make sure to leave it out of that particular type of review, because you didn't want to be spoiled, and you need to keep in mind that not everyone has read the book that you've read, even if it is an extremely popular book, or even if they've seen an adaptation such as a film or a TV show. Not everyone has read these books, so try and keep it as spoiler-free as you can. Anything that you thought might have been a spoiler before you began reading it, leave it out of that video if it is a spoiler-free review. Spoiler review. Now, for a spoiler review, the biggest recommendation I can give you is, once again, to include this in your title. If you don't want to include it in the title for whatever reason, that's fine. Please state it in your intro as soon as you possibly can. The best way to do this is just to come right out and say it. Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing this book. Just so you know, this is a completely spoilery review, so if you've not read the book before, you may want to go ahead and read it before you come back to this video. The last thing we want to do is to betray the trust of our viewers. So if our viewers have not read the book and we just start spoiling it for them, they may get to a point where they say, oh, well, I guess I don't need to read that book now because you spoiled it for me. And it can be incredibly disheartening for someone who either hasn't read the book and is interested in it, or worse, someone who's already purchased the book and they're about to read it, but then they now no longer want to because you spoiled that for them. So just make sure you notify them, whether you're telling them in the title of your video or whether you are telling them in the introduction of your video. The final type of review that I want to talk to you about before we get into the structure is when we put those two types of reviews together, when you're doing a spoiler-free and spoiler review. These are reviews that I highly, highly, highly recommend. If you want to talk in spoilery detail, who is anyone to stop you from doing that? However, if you do a spoiler-free and spoiler review, then you are more likely to have viewers that want to watch the video, because regardless of whether they've read the book or not, at the very least they can watch the spoiler-free section. My next bit of advice to you would be to do the spoiler-free section first. My third bit of advice for you would be to let everyone know once you are going from the spoiler-free section into your spoiler section. And my fourth bit of advice would be to please make sure that you are giving your viewers time to get away from your video before you spoil in case they haven't read it. Because here's the thing, we may all think that every single viewer when they're viewing our videos are literally right there, as close as I am to the camera that I can reach out and touch the camera right away, so that if you're saying, I'm now going to spoil, I can quickly press stop and move away. But hey, sometimes viewers are listening to videos on YouTube, regardless of whether it's booktube or not, but sticking to booktube, there are viewers that listen to booktube videos while they're doing other things. They may be cleaning, they may be cooking, their phone may be on the other side of the room, and if you are going from, so that's my spoiler-free section, now I'm going into the spoiler section, so what about this? You've spoiled before they've had a chance to get to their phone, and you get that whole slow motion thing like you see in a movie where they're going, no! But you've already started spoiling. So take your time to let everyone know. For me, I kind of go over the top when I let people know. So I kind of say, okay, so I've now gotten to the end of my spoiler-free section and I'm going to go into the spoiler section. I am then mindful that I am going to be losing some of my viewers because they aren't going to join me in that spoiler section. So for me personally, take on this tip or leave it, it's up to you. But for me personally, I will say, for those of you who are not joining me in the spoiler section, thank you so much for joining. I post videos every and and I'll see you again soon. But for those of you who are joining me for the spoiler section, we're going to head over to that right now. Then I will say, okay, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. We are in the spoilery section. So therefore, if you have not read this book, you have been warned. Here we go. I take a lot of time to make sure that my viewers can click away if they have not read that book, because I do not want to betray their trust in me that I'm not going to spoil a book that they have not read. Now that I've discussed those 4 different types of review videos for you, I'm now going to get into a bit of a structure with you guys. How, in my opinion, you can go about creating the most amazing reviews. Now, I do want to premise this by saying that some of you are going to absolutely love this and take it on board. Some of you will absolutely love this and see it as validation because you already do it. Some of you may not like these ideas, and some of you may not even want to implement them. And that is totally fine. Everyone is different. These opinions are my own. I usually don't like leaving disclaimers, but I feel I need to in this situation. Please don't think that I'm sitting here telling you, you must do your review this way. And if you don't do it this way, you are wrong. No, I'm not doing that. Not at all. I'm just giving some recommendations and some tips for things that I have noticed have worked for others, but more importantly, things that I have noticed that have worked for me. So if these are things you are not doing that you're open to considering, then let's get right into it and talk about my idea of what might make the most amazing review when it comes to a book. Starting at the top with the introduction. I can now go into more detail about this because we're at that point. With the introduction, you want to give those all-important stats about the book. So again, I will use the example of Mistborn, The Final Empire. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say the name of the book, the author, the age rating, the genre, and my star rating. So I would say, today I am reviewing this book, Mistborn the Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is an adult fantasy book, and I gave this book 5 stars. What you're doing with this intro is you're letting your viewers know right off the bat, in the shortest way possible, this is what you need to know in short, in a very succinct way, and in a very short amount of time. And it is very effective, because at the end of the day, you want to be doing reviews for viewers that want to see the review of that book. One thing we need to keep in mind as booktubers is that there are videos that we can do that will appeal to the masses. And if that's what you're wanting to do and you want to stick to that, there is nothing wrong with that. Hey, I mean, we all struggle with that lovely YouTube algorithm, don't we? But at the end of the day, one thing we do need to realize is, understandably, book reviews on booktube are very much a niche type of video. Not everyone's going to want to watch those reviews. They may have not read the book, they may not at all be interested in the book, they may have read the book and really didn't like it, and so they really don't care what you have to say. So they may not even be interested in the genre or the age rating or whatever it is. So you do need to be mindful of that. One way of assisting your viewers, if you're putting your viewers first, one way of assisting your viewers is to let them know that stuff right off the bat. Here is the title, here is the author, here is the age rating, here is the genre, and here is my star rating. You're telling them everything they need to know in a very short, succinct way. The second step in this structure would be to state the premise. Now that you've told everyone all of those stats, it's time to tell everyone a little bit about the book. One bit of advice I can give you is to keep this spoiler-free. Regardless of whether you are doing a spoiler-free and spoiler, or a spoiler video, and certainly if you're doing a spoiler-free video, you don't necessarily want to give everything away in the premise. In fact, if you are doing a spoilery video, you can still have your viewers who have not read the book watch your video up to the point that you start spoiling. So when it comes to the premise, and with a premise being a premise, you don't want to give away too much. Let's just say you're reading a book and the central point of the book is that we have a hero who needs to battle a villain, and the hero wins by the end of the book. The last thing you want to say in your premise is, we are following this character who is a chosen one trope type character, and they need to go about setting setting out to murder this villain to set everything and make everything right with the world again. And guess what? They do it, and it is fantastic. Now let me tell you my thoughts, because you spoiled it right there. So the best thing you can do is keep your premise as spoiler-free as possible. Once again, I allude back to what I was saying earlier. What did you want to know before you went into the book? The majority of readers out there don't want to know the important stuff. They don't want to be spoiled. That's why they're reading the book. If they're going to watch a review of a book, especially if it's spoiler-free, it's because they want to get a bit of an idea of what this book is about without being told what that critical information is. So do please keep that in mind. Bonus tip here, and this is something again that not everyone's going to take on board, but a little bit of Mr. Francy sparkle would be to state your premise in a way that whoever you're telling the premise to, you know that they are going to love this book. And let me tell you why. There is a difference between thinking, okay, whoever I'm telling this to, I know they're going to love it, and the attitude and the tone that you present versus, I don't know if they're going to love it, or I really think they're going to hate it. So let me show you that in example form. Let's say that I'm going to give you a premise of a book, and I didn't like it, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to like it either. Then I'm going to be saying, okay, so the premise of this book is that we're following this girl, and yeah, look, she tries to find this gem, and it's just, I mean, you can see how that goes. Or if you're just nonplussed about it, then it comes across as rather neutral, which is fine, but that would go more like this. We're following a girl by the name of Sandra who is trying to find a gem, and along the way she meets a couple of friends who end up helping her. Now, if I am going to state that same premise in a way where I know that whoever's going to watch this is going to love this book, then I'm going to say, so we're following a girl by the name of Sandra who needs to find this gem. Now, she finds a couple of friends along the way who are fantastic. They are so much fun, and they end up helping her. See the difference there? Because I am going in explaining the premise, assuming you're going to love this book, I am telling it to you in a way that is hyping it up for you. And I think that does make a massive difference. I also think that if your viewers don't, or if you have a viewer that doesn't necessarily like that premise, then they'll forgive the attitude that you're having because you're just stating the premise. You're not necessarily saying that you like it or that you don't. I've had, well, every review that I've done, I kind of have this in mind, because I want to state my premise in a way that helps anyone to know if they're going to love it or not, but in a way that if they are going to love it, that I'm going to celebrate this book. But if I don't love it, you're going to know about it after I've stated the premise. So I may say, in this book, we're following Sharon, who needs to find this gem, and she finds these lovely people along the way who end up helping her, and these characters are extremely funny. Now, for my thoughts on this book, I actually didn't like it, and that's where I'll go on to my attitude might change. But for the premise, that is my biggest tip I can give you. Go in assuming that whoever you are telling the premise to is going to love this premise, regardless of if you did or if not. The third step is where you get to say your thoughts. And of course, this is going to differ between whether you are doing a spoiler-free review or a spoiler review or both. But I'm going to talk to you on the spoiler-free side of things. My number one bit of advice, the sparkly bonus tip that I am going to give you here is, if the thoughts that you are explaining, when you read them at the time, created or drew out some sort of emotion out of you, show that when you're doing the review. I understand that everyone is completely different, and I do understand that when it comes to booktubers who do reviews, there are booktubers who focus on the words they are using, and there are booktubers who focus on the emotion that they are using. So everyone is different. But for me, I find those who are expressing the emotion that they feel when they're talking about the book to be a whole lot more entertaining, and therefore I find that review to be a lot more enticing. let me explain and let me delve deeper in with you. Because when I first began on BookTube, I had the feeling that I needed to talk up every single book that I read, whether I liked it or not. I came into BookTube over 2 years ago making a vow, and that vow was no matter what happened, you were going to know how I felt about a book because I'm going to be as open, honest, and transparent as possible. And I still am to this day. However, I was having a little asterisk next to that point because I did think that I had to basically, show everyone that I loved a book, or if not showing everyone I loved a book, I need to follow along with what everyone else was saying about a book. And so therefore I was kind of talking about it along those guidelines. But the thing is, viewers are going to respect you as a reviewer a lot more if you are giving your own honest and unfiltered opinion. So you may come back to me and say, but Mr. Francy, aren't you all sparkle, sparkle, sparkle with your sparkly energy all around the world? What if I hated the book? Okay, here is my response to you. First of all, if you hated a book, which is fine, you gave it 1 star, there was nothing redeemable about it, you absolutely couldn't stand what you read. There is a reason. There is something in the back of your mind and in your heart that pushed you to push that record button and talk about this book. Here's the thing. When I say sparkle, sparkle, whether you are talking about something in a positive way because it brought you a whole lot of joy, or whether you are talking about something in a negative way because it made you really angry, provided your passion shines through, it is absolutely going to be forgivable because you are being as realistic as you possibly can. If you read a book that there is a book that I don't name on this channel anymore, but if you watched my videos late last year, you know the one I'm referring to that I was so upset with by the time I got to the end of the book. I found this book to be, again, not naming it, I found it to be incredibly offensive. But I kept reading because I thought that it would be redeemed by the end of the book, and it just wasn't. So when I came on to do my discussion about that book in whatever video I was doing, I did not do a standalone review for it, but when I was talking about it in other videos, yeah, my passion shone through. I did not sit there and say, you know what guys, I really didn't enjoy this book and I found it to be really offensive, so I gave it 1 star. You guys, if you've seen the video, you already know this, and if you haven't seen it and you want to see something fun, go ahead and watch that. I came in saying, you guys, this book offended me so much, and let me tell you why. This happened, and then this happened, and and I am so animated and passionate about what I'm discussing that it's going to shine through. Where if I am giving a muted discussion on my thoughts and feelings about something that I'm so passionate about, it's not going to read the same way. Now, was I nervous the first time that I was very angrily reviewing a book? Absolutely I was. Here's positive Mr. Francy putting on a negative front. I had no idea how people were going to react to it, but I went ahead and did the video and put it up because I felt that everyone had the right to know what I thought, and that in particular with this particular book that I'm thinking of, that it was so incredibly offensive. Whether you went on to read that book or not is absolutely fine, but I've given you everything that I felt that you needed to know before you picked up that book so that you were well aware. So it really doesn't matter if you're extremely happy about a book or extremely angry to the point that you are pissed off. Allow your passion to shine through. Remember, you hit that record button to record a review for a reason. Something motivated you to get your thoughts, feelings, and emotions out on camera. So therefore, allow it to shine through. And don't be afraid that a negative review is going to cause you to lose subscribers or have them come back at you saying this, that, and the other. Because at the end of the day, when you do this, especially when you're being angry and you're allowing the passion that you had and the reason that you're recording this video to happen in the first place, what you're going to see is that people are going to appreciate your unfiltered emotions and thoughts. So that's the biggest bit of advice that I can give you when it comes to that. Otherwise, when it comes to your thoughts, allow them to be said. Now, again, if we're going to focus on a spoiler-free review and you want to give your thoughts, there are ways to go about doing this in a spoiler-free way. There are little templates that I have that I like to use. One of my favorite standbys when it comes to a spoiler-free review is the line, "due to a set of circumstances." You have no idea what those circumstances are because I have not told you, but you are aware that due to a number of things that have come up in this book, I'm feeling a certain way. So I might say, we're following a girl by the name of Charlotte, and due to a set of circumstances, she needs to go off and do something. You can also zoom out and talk about that point in the book from a writer's perspective. So you might say, I really loved this book. However, the final climax, which I won't spoil because it is a spoiler, the final climax did let me down. And focusing on your thoughts and feelings, especially your feelings, will detract from you saying a spoiler. So rather than saying, the final climax really let me down in a spoiler-free review, because when Charlotte finally retrieved that gem, nothing happened. You're giving that away. But if you were to say, the final climax really did let me down because I was expecting a whole lot more and it really didn't happen. I felt like the author really set me up for something that was going to be massive, and it turned out to be extremely anticlimactic. I have not given you any information about what happens in the book other than my own thoughts and feelings. So that is something to definitely keep in mind as well. When it comes to your thoughts and feelings, however, you have carte blanche to say and do whatever it is that you want, because at the end of the day, you are giving your thoughts and your feelings. Regardless of if it is a spoiler-free or a spoiler review, the one thing that I will recommend to you, as I have been saying, is to be unfiltered. These are your thoughts and your feelings. So don't say what it is that you think everyone expects you to say, and don't say what everyone else is saying because you think that's the right thing to do. Say what you think. In the spoiler section itself, feel free to absolutely go off on your thoughts and feelings because you are chatting to viewers out there who have already read the book. So go for it. Go for the gusto. But in the spoiler-free section, don't feel that you have to mute yourself or tone everything down because it's the spoiler-free section. You definitely do not. Provided you focus on your feelings and your own emotions, and that you zoom out of the book and look at it from that perspective, as I was alluding to earlier, you won't be giving away spoilers, but at the same time, you're also not toning yourself down. And the final step is the wrap-up itself of that review. Regardless of whether this is a spoiler-free, a spoiler, a spoiler-free and spoiler, or a monthly wrap mini review, the final step is wrapping everything up. The best thing that I can recommend, and my golden tip here, would be to give your overall thoughts. I like to end my reviews when I wrap up by saying the words "all in all" and going on from there, or "overall" and going from there. The great advantage with this when it comes to spoiler-free and spoiler reviews is that you can, rather than letting your viewers go at the end of a spoiler-free section, say to them, all right, now I have timestamps in the space below, so despite the fact that I'm going into the spoilery section now, if you want, you can go down there and click on the outro, and you can see my final thoughts over there. So they can skip ahead and still see you wrapping up your thoughts at the end of the video. And a wrap-up, I think, is always a good idea. But even if you're doing a spoilery review, or even if you're just doing a spoiler-free review, but certainly if you're doing a monthly wrap, a wrap-up definitely will help you, because it takes everything that you have said, whether you've spent 1 minute, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is on this book, it is a very good way to succinctly wrap up what you have discussed, because you've gone into potentially so much detail that by the time you get to the end, your viewers are going, I don't remember what you said at the beginning. So just quickly wrapping it up. So, yeah, overall, I thought that this book was really good, and I did appreciate but I didn't like I also recommend the final thing that you say before you let your viewers go being the star rating that you gave. Reiterate that. Because if you're saying your star rating at the beginning, which if you're following these steps, that's what you would do, then your viewers have forgotten what that star rating is by the time you get to the end. So go through your final thoughts. All in all, overall, I thought and therefore I gave this book X amount of stars, so that reminds them. And that's a great way to end things. Now, these opinions, once again, are my own, and you can take them or leave them, but I do feel, thanks to things that I have witnessed and feedback that I've received personally, that this is the way that BookTube is going. It's interesting, in an earlier video that I did this month, I was discussing the correlation between the impact that a reviewer, whether professional or amateur, has on the sale of books is incredible. Book sales can jump in scale, or they can fall in scale owing to a review. Therefore, what this has shown is that viewers trust reviewers. They especially trust the amateur reviewer. Why, you ask? Because we, like them, are human. So we're going to give you our unfiltered thoughts about a book. So therefore, with keeping that in mind, be mindful of the fact that your viewers are totally fine for you to fly off the handle, to get emotional. It's absolutely fine. And in fact, again, as I've seen and as I've personally heard, viewers love this because they get caught up in the emotion that you have for the book. You are not there to convince the viewer, and I think that's another tip I can give you. You're not there to convince the viewer that they need to be like you. You are there giving your opinion, and then based on your opinion, the viewer is going to determine whether or not they want to purchase and or consume that book. So please, please, please allow your passion to shine through. It makes a very, very big difference. Now, as I said at the top of this video, and I'm going to reiterate it here, please do not think that I am saying that if you are a booktuber who focuses more on your words than your tone, that is a bad thing. No, it's absolutely fine. And if you want to keep doing that, then there is a market for that. So don't think that I'm telling you you have to change. I'm not. I love diversity so much. One of my favorite things, in fact, about books themselves is that each and every reader experiences books in their own way, and we can all have completely different thoughts and feelings on books. And that's what makes it so exciting. If we all had the same thoughts and feelings on a book, it would become rather monotone. So you do you, boo, at the end of the day. Don't think that I'm telling you you must do this if you haven't been doing it already. But if any of this appeals to you, or if any of this has resonated with you in a way that's making you think, hey, you know what, maybe I should give this a go, then give it a try and see how it works for you. And I'm sure you're going to see a big difference, not only necessarily from your viewers and the comments that they leave, but if you watch your videos back, which if you edit your videos, then you are kind of forced to watch your videos back, you will notice a difference. You'll notice a very big difference between, so with this book, we're following a girl who needs to find a gem, and she meets a couple of friends on the way. I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. Versus, so in this book, we're following this girl who needs to find this gem. Now, she meets a couple of friends along the way, and they are just so hilarious, and it just made for an amazing book. You will see the difference in your inflection, in your tone, and that is because your passion is shining through. Okay, so you do you, boo, at the end of the day, but if this helped you, then certainly let me know in the comments below. And if you have any other tips yourself for when it comes to a review, let us all know in that comment section below. That's where I'm going to leave it for today. And also, if you have a recommendation for any other educational videos you'd like to see me do, let me know that as well, either in the comments below or over on my Discord. Link to my Discord is in the description. But in the meantime, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching. Spread your sparkly energy all throughout the world. Be kind, love one another, and happy reading!